Did you know that yesterday it was 73 on the coast side and 69 in Redwood City?
Calling to order the January 16th, 2014 regular meeting of the Granada Sanitary District. We have just come out of closed session for which
there was no reportable action.
Thank you. And as usual, we're going to start with general public participation. However, I'm going to exercise a little president prerogative and say that yesterday, in the terms of a special district, a rather momentous event took place. I think it's fitting to ask the senior board member who literally spawned the idea and pushed it and worked more than any of the rest of us on it to make an announcement. Director Warren.
Well, LAFCO has approved sending our reorganization question to the voters for the June ballot. And I guess we can talk more about it on the agenda item itself.
Yes, we will. But at this time, I'd also like to thank the person not on the board who put so much work into it, our General Manager, Chuck Duffy.
Thank you.
Thank you. And, please pass our appreciation on to Jonathan, our regular district counsel. Without his esteemed counsel, we wouldn't have gotten where we got. So.
And Ryan also. Give kudos to Ryan. He stepped in this summer.
That's true.
Helped finalize the application.
Yeah.
And Matthew,
Right,
I'd like to add just real quick, there were a whole bunch of the public. There were a lot of people who attended meetings and talked to people and worked the issue for us and collected signatures. So there was a big community effort on this that helped out also.
And the petitions that some of the citizens did came up yesterday, and so I think Martha said 289 signatures. I'd forgotten what the number was. I wasn't really involved. But apparently those petitions helped.
It was well over 300 signatures, I heard. It was a good, all those were good efforts. So the community helped out too there. We appreciate that.
Indeed. Indeed. All right, general public participation. We have one speaker slip from Scott Holmes.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Scott Holmes. I'm a project engineer with Big Wave, and I wanted to give you a little update on where we're at with the project, and to hopefully not add to the confusion. I had a couple of handouts that might answer some questions. The last couple of years since the Coastal Commission meeting, we put together an alternative called the North Parcel Alternative, and the big change is that it puts all the development in the north end of the North Parcel and leaves the 5 acres on the south parcel undeveloped. And there's at the tail end of this handout, there is I printed a tentative map utility section, and at this size it's almost illegible. But we actually have to let you know where the status of this thing is. I've worked primarily with Lenny Roberts to identify all the concerns from all the agencies and the Coastal Commission and develop a project alternative that addressed all those concerns. The housing is right up against the mobile home park, and it's set at an elevation to be above tsunamis. The business park has been reduced in size to have about 40% less employees. And one of the changes that makes it easier for the GSD analysis is that it's all based on population, maximum population. And it's they're going to modify CEQA to address the new project alternative. And what it is, still the new project is a maximum level of development. And the task from GSD is just identify are facilities adequate, can the flows be met? And Chuck Duffy sent Jeff Peck an email yesterday, and his understanding of what has to happen is almost identical to our understanding. So I think we're on the same page that direction. Again, we've provided the district with the funds to have the engineer review it. We're looking for an agreement or recommendations on the capacity analysis that we prepared, and we also have the complete package is going to show up tonight. That was a request from Chuck. One of the things that's been added is we did a tentative map, which is a detailed engineering analysis that includes utilities, sizing, dimensions, trench details, all that stuff. So that needs to be part of the package that would be reviewed. So what I've done here is I've given the changes in terms of its impacts. I provided a table which would make you go buggy even late at night. It shows what we had initially and what it is different. And briefly, the utility system analysis for water flow at the end. And on the front is my card, so if there's any questions, feel free to email me about details. I would like to consider having this on the agenda. I know there is one of the items that would take board action that's recommended by the manager. So at that point, I can give a more detailed description of the project if that's necessary or not. So thank you, and
Thanks, Scott.
that's it.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question. Scott, are you ready to provide the documents to GSD staff that this district has been requesting for years that will allow the engineer to compute the actual amount of capacity you'll need?
Yeah, we're providing that package. That's part of the NPA package. It shows the projected populations, our estimate of the flow, and that would be verified or modified by the engineer. So that, and then it shows all the utilities, both on-site that are private and off-site that would be public. And that's generally what the engineer needs to comment on. It doesn't have, this is a planning document. It's not the...
Yeah, we understand that.
Yeah.
So when you come to the
We'll be coming
application phase, you'll have...
full plans for a
Right.
permit, and that gets, and then you can mitigate it and ask whatever it needs to be done and charge fees and all. That's down the road. So, and we're in agreement on that. So, yeah, the full package is being set. Should be here tonight.
You know, I'm displeased with Big Wave intimating to the county and the public that this district is being uncooperative when you guys just simply have not submitted complete enough information for our staff to do what you're asking them to do.
Well, we're actually going to turn over a new leaf, and we've submitted that, and we're not going to worry about what has happened in the past. It's a reduced size project. It addresses the concerns you guys had in terms of capacity issues. It's been complicated. There's been a million levels of input, and whatever concerns or questions we've had or confusion, I totally understand it. So I'm not even remotely critical of anything this time.
I don't like
Okay,
this district being painted as
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. This is not an agenda item.
Okay, so I think you guys are doing a good job. If that helps paint it better.
Thanks, Scott.
So we'll move, I actually got another speaker request form from Chris Johnson.
Hello, Chris Johnson, El Granada. I just want to congratulate everybody on the decision by LAFCO yesterday. Whether you agree with CSD or not, I think you all deserve really a big round of applause for the level of commitment that it has taken to get to this point. I just reviewed a portion of the documentation again today, and just the volume of documentation, the amount of time it takes to address all of the points in the depth and level required and requested. Again, is just a testament to the commitment that you all put in there. So congratulations, and I think it's a great job, and I think it's a good thing that it's on the ballot, and now the community can decide. And I think that's a victory in itself, that now the community will be able to decide, and we'll go forward from there. A lot of people worked on this. Again, the people in this room, thank you very much. I also just want to call out two members of the community that I experienced working hard on this, and I just want to mention them because I know they worked very hard, and that's Fran Pollard and Lenny Schultz. I know they worked very hard on this, and thank you to them as well. There seems to be kind of a groundswell of critical energy mass for parks on the coast side right now. We had the Moss Beach incident that turned into a good thing. We've got this, and we've got the county looking at their parks funding. In fact, if I could cross-pollinate a little bit here at the next MCC meeting on January 22nd, 7 p.m. at the Mavericks Event Center. We are going to be having a special meeting about parks. We're going to have representatives from several organizations there, and Marlene Finley, the new county parks director, will be there. So again, thank you, and I think this is, another spoke in the wheel towards the wheel of progress. Thank you very much.
Chris, real quick, do you think it would be good for have representative from here? If I don't know the generality of your parks discussion, to have a representative from us talk about our parks proposal, or is that?
I would contact Lisa Ketchum about that. She's the chair of the MCC. Whether a person from this organization speaks or not on an agenda item, I would certainly love to have as many members of this organization as possible there who wanted to be there, because we are all part of this, and certainly GSD to CSD is an important part of this as well. So yes, I would suggest contacting Lisa, and I hope that you guys want to come on next Wednesday. Thank you.
For those who don't know, Chris is one of the recently elected new members of the Midcoast Community Council.
Did you have another?
Yeah,
something else?
I don't have a flyer, but our quarterly recycle event would be January 25th.
Yeah. Fourth Saturday.
So I assume same terms as
9-1.
previous ones, even though sometimes we don't get the updated flyer on the website, but there is some version of the flyer there.
I'll send it to you tomorrow. I made it this afternoon.
Okay. So in case we have any new viewers, this is a quarterly thing we do at the foot of Portola on district-owned property, where you can bring things over that can't be picked up curbside, including things that you're not allowed to put in the trash, and you otherwise have to drive up to the recycle yard in Pacifica and drop them off. And so to save people the trip, we arranged quarterly. You can bring it over here, and they come to us quarterly. So it's always the fourth Saturday of the quarter from 9 to 1.
Thank you. All right, moving to the regular agenda. Item 1, consideration of LAFCO application for potential reorganization in the Community Services District with Parks and Recreation powers. And we've already made the announcement that LAFCO voted in favor of allowing the district to go forward with a vote of the people on this matter, and hear from our general manager.
Another way to put that is you stole my thunder.
Sorry.
So at the meeting last night, as previously reported, LAFCO did indeed approve our proposal on a 6-0, one absentee, so it was a unanimous vote. It was back and forth for a while on pushing the vote from the June election to the November election, but the June election thankfully prevailed. So that's good news for us. We keep this train going down the tracks.
Do you know which ballot the school district participated?
Supposedly June.
Because I heard a week ago something about it was going to be November, and that conflicts with what we previously heard.
Yeah, I haven't heard, but since Rick and I met with them, I haven't heard anything from them. We've still got some stuff to do on the CSD. We've still got to get the Half Moon Bay agreement, property tax swap agreement in place. They're going to consider that at their January 21st meeting. We've got seeming approval at a staff level because they've run it by their staff and their attorney, and they put it on the agenda. So,
is there a staff recommendation there to approve it?
I don't know. That's a good question. We also have the Montera Ad Hoc Committee, which they're considering as we speak. That's an item on their agenda to weigh in on the CSD and also on the Ad Hoc Committee. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
They have a really broadly worded agenda item.
Yeah.
So who knows what all they're going to do there.
And finally, and perhaps most importantly, though the Half Moon Bay Agreement's important also, is we've still got to work out an agreement with the county to do some partnering for the next couple of years to use their expertise and knowledge and help us with our Parks and Recreation effort. And I've talked to Marlene Finley, who's the new Parks Director at the county, and, we had a good conversation about it, and she's going to have her attorney, I gave her the San Carlos agreement with the Half Moon Bay, and she's going to have their attorney draft up an agreement which we can take a look at. And this will help us implement the part of what we're doing tonight. And the next thing is implementing the County Parks Action Plan as our initial guiding document for the CSD.
Maybe you should ask her to come introduce herself to this board.
Marlene?
Yeah.
I can do that.
Good idea. Chuck, I have a question. The 6-0 vote was conditioned, and they adopted 11 conditions that are in the LAFCO staff report, and some of which are already completed, some that you just mentioned. But there were 12 conditions. And was the 12th one that the LAFCO had to adopt that subcommittee for
Yeah, it had to be.
checking
Yeah.
us? Yeah, okay.
I think that was
That's
it.
what I thought.
Well, let's mention that to the board. One of the conditions of approval was that this district send a letter to Montero Water and Sanitary asking them to appoint their half of a joint committee with us to discuss consolidation. And so we sent the letter a while ago.
January 7th.
So, that's one of the things they're considering. But one of the things that turned up at the meeting yesterday afternoon was Supervisor Horsley, or in that capacity, Commissioner Horsley, asked LAFCO to appoint a committee of the commission to sit in on the joint committee meetings. So he and Commissioner Alfano from Half Moon Bay are LAFCO's committee that will be meeting with the joint committee.
That's not the way I understood it. I thought that that their role was going to be, I thought I heard quarterly, to ask
That too.
the two districts,
Yeah.
how's it going, or the two committees for the two districts, how's it going?
Well, what's your understanding of what the LAFCO part of the committee was? So they've asked.
I think they were, I don't know that they sit in on every meeting, but they were going to sit in on some initial meeting to kind of kick it off. Is the impression I got. So.
Now, there were various concerns raised that this board needs to be aware of, and this is going to have to be communicated to the public. Some people said, effectively, why are we rushing this? Why is this popping up now? Why are we so committed to getting it on the June ballot? And this is not anything new. This is just a continuation of efforts that have been going on for a very long time. It actually started in '94 with a proposal to create a Mid-Coast-wide CSD to do Parks and Rec for the whole unincorporated Mid-Coast. And this district has been looking at a previous incarnation of our current application since, basically since mid-2000. So, in response to people saying, this just popped up, why are you rushing it? I think that we need to be prepared to point out this has been going on for 20 years now, and, it's time, let's move it already.
And there's almost two parallel efforts to that. One is the CSD effort, the reorganization to a CSD, but the other issue is Parks and Recs on the coast side. And that issue's been around. It didn't just pop up. It's been around since 2002 when they first started all these action plans and reports and things like that. So this is a long time effort that's been going on. And you're right, I want to second. Someone there heard a couple comments like that. oh, this thing just popped up and came at us. And, one person said there wasn't sufficient effort. And, and I laughed because, it's the guy doing more than sufficient effort. I thought, yes, there's been a lot of work. You haven't seen it because they haven't come to our meetings, because another person said, well, we never even heard about it. And I said, it's been on literally 20 or 30 meeting agendas for the past years and years. So,
Well, since 2000, it's probably been on the agenda, I would guess 40 to 50 times.
Right. And so, because someone said, well, the town hall wasn't till, 2 months ago or 3 months ago. I said, yeah, we were trying to time it, so it was critical to the LAFCO effort. So, that was one of the things mentioned there. And there's many public opportunities for people to weigh in if they wanted to.
And the other issue was the action plan. And we will start out by following the county-developed Mid-Coast Parks and Rec Action Plan. Is that the name of it?
It's called the action plan.
Okay. So it's not like it's not like we're being vague about what we're going to do. We're going to start out implementing that plan, which at least a couple of things on there, I think, are things that will have really high community support for getting done sooner rather than later.
So, in short, it was a good meeting, and we had a lot of support. The commission, as evidenced by the 6-0 vote. Commissioner Alfano, who had been a no vote for the tentative approval, actually switched his vote to a yes. So that's good news. And moving forward, if we get this thing approved in June, we can look at partnering opportunities with the city of Half Moon Bay and Cabrillo Unified School District. And
when we get it approved.
It's the will of the people. And so finally, just announce now the last action that LAFCO will be taking. There'll be a protest hearing on February 19th. That's required as part of this reorganization proposal. So I would imagine it's the same time their usual meetings are, 2:30. So, and if that goes, if we don't get half the district there for protesting, which I doubt would happen.
Well, it would have to be half the registered voters, which is like a couple thousand.
Right, so we need a couple thousand people
Good luck
there.
with
So
that.
I don't think that's going to happen. But it's the final hurdle we have to jump over. And then after that, they've got to write up an independent analysis. LAFCO does. It gets on the ballot, and June 3rd, people vote on it.
I thought the process for the impartial analysis was that our council writes it and then it has to be approved by LAFCO's council.
No, LAFCO writes it. We looked this up, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We tried that. For what it's worth.
I swore that Jonathan said that he writes it and they approve it.
He might have said that, but he actually looked into it. I don't know if you or he did, yeah. So that's it. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Okay, let's move.
What efforts are being done in terms of, I think last time we saw the raising rates that are gonna take place because of this. What efforts are being done in terms of to really look at, the whole the taxpayer as the most important being in everything, and to really, and I think that's kind of what I saw from LAFCO the whole time, is not a hesitation with anything against parks, but to move forward in a cost-effective manner in terms of consolidation, or us to look around and see what other areas we could try to cut back on costs, so that and when we do get in this environment where there's going to be raising rates, we're ahead of the curve in terms of doing everything we can to be fiscally responsible.
Yeah, and a lot of questions came about, and part of the reason we showed those rates rising was to illustrate the fact to the voters that if we get Parks and Rec powers and we divert property tax funding from the sewer side over to Parks and Rec side, it may have an impact, and most likely will have an impact on sewer rates. But several people either sent me emails or had questions, is this going to have an impact on sewer operations? And I said, decidedly not. Even if we have to raise rates, Our rates are, I want to say, almost half what the other two rates are on the coast side. And I think I calculated it that if we diverted every dime of property tax revenue reallocated every dime of property tax revenue from the sewer side to the park side, our rates would only go up to $580 or something like that. So still lowest on the coast side.
Let me,
And we're in no different position than anybody else. They've got to go through the same Prop 218 process and all that to raise rates.
let me talk about the rates. Our current rate is $402 per ERU, and that's a fixed charge. We charge all single-family residential the same $402. Most other agencies charge based on flow, including Half Moon Bay. Half Moon Bay has a minimum charge, which I don't remember, it's 500 and something, or
Yes.
high 500s. That's their minimum charge, regardless of how little you actually use. Their average residential charge turns out, and this is essentially just a bizarre coincidence, if you add $1 to ours, make it 403, and then double it, their average residential charge is $806. So if we reallocate all of our property tax from subsidizing sewer over to running parks and raise the sewer service charge by an equivalent amount, our rate will still be lower than Half Moon Bay's average residential charge. And Montera's, I hate to even mention it, if I recall, I've kind of forgotten the number, but I think Montera's average residential charge is 3 times what ours is.
It's higher. Whatever it is.
It's higher than Half Moon Bay's. So, in response to the comment just now about, look at where we can cut costs here, this district runs on a shoestring. There really isn't anything to cut here. This is a very lean, efficient district and has been essentially forever. It was literally run out of a garage until a year before I got elected. So there is nothing to cut here. But
we're always looking. But it's no different whether I had Parks and Recs or didn't have Parks and Recs. We're always looking to save money. It's what we do.
I'll just reiterate, make it a little clearer, that the budget that Chuck worked up and submitted for LAFCO's consideration was the worst-case scenario, call it, in which all the money from property taxes would be allocated for Parks and Rec, and that probably won't happen in the first several years. So the rates, if they have to go up, they won't go up as fast as that budget shows.
Right, and as I pointed out to LAFCO, in 2 years, we're going to lose that $100,000 loan payment we've got from the treatment plant back in.
you mean the junk bond? The certificate of participation?
It's not a certificate of participation anymore, it's an actual loan, so we pay $94,000 a year for the past, 15 years, and that's going away, so. That's why I can't categorically state we'll raise rates, because we just saved $94,000 a year, so.
Since budget season is approaching, can you present, even if it's not for board consideration, but just for comparison purposes, the budget with at least one level of property tax shifted, and
We've got 5 years in the LAFCO budget. You can see varying degrees.
One of the things that I'm having a hard time getting my head around is the start date, which took me by surprise. I was expecting it to be July 1st, our fiscal year boundary, and the Board of Supervisors has to approve the election results by, I think, June 30th was stated. And so and they typically do not wait until their last minute to approve the election results. They do it reasonably quick, and since this will be a small election, the elections department will probably get the results soon pretty quick.
It's actually by July 1st.
Okay, but if the election results are certified early enough after the election and Martha can record the certificate of completion, is there any wiggle room in getting that date changed to be July 1st if the
Not at this point.
planets align?
No, not at this point.
Because I don't understand how you're going to do our budget when we have to approve the budget before we know the election.
Well, we can
results.
always amend the budget later in the year.
We just take our best shot, and if everything changes, you change it.
Right.
So we're in
And a budget, yeah, a budget's just a budget.
It's a budget.
Yeah, it doesn't,
So,
it's not, yeah, I'm not setting anything in stone.
Are you projecting that, again, this year, we won't need any rate increase either way?
I would think so, but I haven't looked at it because we haven't started the budget process.
Because, if the Parks and Rec alternative it comes into being, I guess the concern that I would have is if there's one scenario where we wouldn't have to do an increase and another one where we would, how are we going to handle that? Because
Well, we've got it, that's what reserves are for, so it's not going to be that enough money that it's going to impact us.
And as a matter of fact, Chuck's projection a year ago for reserves with the two very large projects the district was working on, his projection was that about 2 or 3 years from now, our reserves would have hit zero. And the interesting thing is our reserves are now almost exactly the same amount they were 2 years ago before we did those two big projects.
Yeah, but that was driven by SAM projects.
Well, part of it, though,
Part of it was us, but
part of
yeah.
it was because
Right.
both of those projects, the contractors were hungry, and we got really good
Yeah.
prices on the construction.
All right, so that's all I've got on that.
All right, let's move to item 1B, consideration of establishing the county's Mid-Coast Action Plan for Parks and Recreation as an initial guiding document for the proposed community services district. Chuck, would you like to give some
Yes.
background?
As one of LAFCO's conditions of approval for the reorganization, they wanted us to adopt the county's Mid-Coast Action Plan for Parks and Rec as an initial guiding document. So we told them we would do that. We didn't have a problem with that. And so that's what this item's for, to formally have board approval for that.
I have an editing question for council. At the end of the last full line, the second whereas, it says as a guiding document as a community service district. It just doesn't quite sound right with those connector words there.
As a guiding document, as a community services
I'm
district.
thinking it should read like for. I don't know. I'm really unclear on exactly what this is trying to say.
I think the way it was written was in the event that the voters approve the election. In other words, in the event GSD becomes a community services district.
Okay, well, this has been well enough vetted. The other thing, though, is the on the last line of that second whereas, that has to say community services district, because the state law only refers to community services district in the plural, where there's no singular in the law.
Correct.
So if there's nothing else, I would like to be the one to make a motion on this.
Do we have any other discussion, questions?
With an extra S. With an extra S, I said. That's all.
I move that we approve resolution number 2014-001, a resolution establishing the county's Mid-Coast Action Plan for Parks and Recreation as an initial guiding document for the proposed community services district.
I second it.
Any more discussion? Those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Item 1C, further directions to general manager necessary or convenient to the processing of the completion of the Granada Sanitary District reorganization project, including execution of any related agreements. Chuck, can you talk a bit about what directions And
I
we're
need
just
no
waiting to
further
give you-
guidance.
So
I know
where
where we're
think so.
headed.
I
where
didn't
we
think
are
so.
now is the old joke about your boss comes into your office on Saturday afternoon and says, "You're doing a good job. Why don't you take tomorrow off?"
Okay.
You never heard that? No. Never worked in DP or now IT.
Any other inquiries about that?
We don't need any immediate guidance, and
No.
so it's fine.
Like I said, I know where we're headed.
I move that we don't give them any more guidance.
At this point,
second
I think it somewhat moves to a community-based group, which will have to do the advocacy because this district can't spend public money on advocacy.
That's right.
Now, question, and Jonathan is really conservative on this stuff. If there's a website for the community advocacy group, can there be a link from GSD's page to that?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, I could certainly look into it, but that seems like
But
definitely
it's,
crossing the boundary.
but it's not spending public money having the link.
I would say play it safe and say no.
Right, why do it?
We don't want to, they'll find it.
Yeah, only if I understand.
We don't wanna-
Search engine optimization.
We don't want to risk it for something like that at this point. We've gone too far.
Okay, item 2, consideration of report and ongoing issues by District Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side representatives.
Well, we haven't had a regular board meeting since the last GSD board meeting, so the only thing to report on is we had a special meeting where we interviewed 3 candidates for the general manager position. And no decision was made. We directed the headhunter to
Don't say anything you can't say. Maybe you could just leave it at that.
do research.
Yes.
And that's probably right at the limit of what I can say.
Sounds good to me.
So it'll come back to the SAM board for further discussion at the next regular SAM board meeting, which would be the 4th Monday, which is January 27th.
Okay, that's it?
Yeah, Rick, I don't think there's anything else to report on.
Nothing.
I mean, my only input from what I'm aware of is I've heard different things from different people in terms of the position being a part-time role and that making it hard. I'm wondering if anyone's looked at, from an administrative end of it, the savings and the productivity increases from potentially, looking at, any synergies between GSD and SAM Plan in terms of if that's a part-time role and we're paying quite a bit of money, for your consulting services. Has anyone looked at, either someone like yourself, filling both roles or kind of looking at kind of the broader best interest of the COSI?
Yeah, they've looked at making that a part-time position also. I don't know that it's gotten any traction.
Well, there's one SAM director who's just adamant that we have to have a full-time manager, and for whatever reason, the rest of the board hasn't been willing to discuss it and see if we want to decide to outvote it.
Because there's been, in the talk of someone doing both jobs, there's perceived or real conflicts of interest, because I can tell you right now, if I went over there and did the SAM job as well as this one, I think Half Moon Bay and Montara would have an issue because I would seemingly be favoring Granada. I don't know how I would do that, but so that issue's been raised, so I don't think.
And we'd be upset if we didn't.
I mean, there's even discussion
That's what we pay
now.
you for.
But I mean, isn't that what the boards are for in terms of that the boards,
Absolutely.
the board would still be just as empowered to act as, nothing would change with that. So to me, I definitely see that in terms of, but that's where I see the board stepping in terms of, as a guiding force to make sure, those power grabs don't happen.
From a technical point of view, it makes sense. The problem is it can't fly politically. For example, when SAM was first formed, the general counsel for SAM was Montera Sanitary District's general counsel. And Half Moon Bay objected to that, and he basically gave up his position at Montera and remained as Sam's general counsel. And he's still there 4 years later.
And actually, Sam and Montera share the same engineer, and there's even background issues there from Half Moon Bay's point of view, so.
Really? Oh, that explains some things. Now I get it.
All right, we'll move to the consent agenda, which includes item 3, approval of special meeting minutes for December 12th,
I need
2013.
to make some minor little correction of the minutes, so I guess we have to take that off of consent.
All right, Mr. Warren is holding the minutes. Item 4, approval of January 2014 warrants for $127,492. Item 5, approval of December 2013 financial statements. And item 6, approval of assessment district distribution number 6-13/14 for $3,946.
I move approval of consent agenda items 4 through 6 as stated.
Second that.
All right, it's consent, so let's vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. All right, what's the minutes?
On the minutes under item 13, committee reports, I guess there was a misunderstanding of what I stated. It says that I stated that Midcoast Council recently seated 7 new members. It was 4 new members. What I said is that this is the first time in a long time there have actually been 7 council members.
I thought that was a lot. I wrote that, actually.
It's a big election.
All of them, yeah. All right, so it's as amended.
So I move approval of the December 12th minutes with that correction.
We have a second?
Don't make me do all of it.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And unanimous. Item 7, committee reports on seminars, conferences, or committee meetings.
Well, we've already flogged the LAFCO meeting, so I don't know if there's anything else.
Didn't you stay through the end, though? No, never mind.
Actually,
Did you say attorney's report, man?
no, there is one other thing I need to mention.
You're killing me.
The Harbor District has directed their general manager to get an appraisal done of this building, which has been for sale just this side of forever. So something to think about.
Thank you. Attorney's report.
No report.
Item 9, treasurer's report.
The only thing I have is Delia put this together in terms of just, I think it just gives a snapshot of where our cash is being invested. I think the only, I think it's interesting, to me, the yields for Bill Lockyer are pretty interesting in terms of looking at, going back almost 30 years now to looking at the cycle of interest rates. And so, I don't know, I know, it's impossible to predict, but just to look at in terms of changing financial environments with if something like that were to happen again.
Yeah, went from something.
Yeah, I missed 7% returns.
Yeah, went from something to almost nothing.
Well, we're fairly constrained by state law and what we can invest in. Every year we reapprove our investment policy, and we haven't changed it forever. But the reason for staying in LAIF, the Local Agency Investment Fund, is because even though the return on investment right now is abysmal, they've never lost any money. LAIF is managed by 20 state department heads, and they're extremely conservative. Their primary investment goal is no risk of losing principal. Can you say, how much money did the county lose in Lehman Brothers? Which hurts, it hurt the school district, the fire district, and dozens of other districts in the county. So I'm not thrilled with the return, but I don't see any reason to re-examine where we invest the money unless you can come up with something else that's very, very provably just as safe as LAVE goes.
I'll give you 2%.
All we have to do is give him all
Trust me.
all the funds. Well, that, Leonard, brings me to my question. Given that LAFE does not lose money, report on this question, I don't think the treasurer, I don't think you're ready for this one, so maybe
Yeah.
Delia or Chuck can tell me. The district started this fiscal year with a balance of $3,189,000, blah, blah, and ended with slightly less.
I can even answer that.
Okay, go.
We did a bunch of big projects.
So we did take some withdrawals.
Yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah.
Yes, we did take a withdrawal. Okay.
Let's do the quick thumbnail version of district financing. We keep our rates as flat as possible, at least straight line, if not level. And unlike most other districts, which look at what capital projects they're going to do in the next year, and then they fine tune their rates and do rate increases to handle the upcoming capital projects, we collect a certain amount of money, which is almost always more than required for the annual operations, and then the excess goes into reserves, and all of our capital projects are funded out of reserves. So we consider the reserves to be the savings account that pays for our capital projects. And that's why the amount in LAFE, which is our reserves, goes up and down as we do capital projects and then rebuild the funding there. So it may look like a lot of money, but it's not, in fact, just excess money hanging around. It's what's there to fund our capital projects.
Thank you. General manager report?
I've got nothing further.
Administrator's report.
I just want to mention that the pending markets request has been taken care of, and there's a copy of it in your mailboxes. So that has, the information that was requested has been provided. Yes.
Did they ask you to create documents?
Yes, and it was kind of annoying, their request, because we are requested that information from several different agencies throughout the year, the main one being the state controller's report, but we don't do that until March for 2013. And I basically gave them what we had and said, if you want us to create this report, you're going to have to pay us for our staff time.
Yeah, the Public Records Act says they can ask for any record that exists, but if they want you to create a record, that
Right.
you can charge them the cost of creating a record.
Yeah, it's in your mailbox, the information I sent. But we did provide them with the information they requested, just not in the format they requested.
Did you send it to them electronically
Yes.
so they can manipulate it?
Two of the files were Excel spreadsheets, the other one was a PDF, because we only get it from Wells Fargo on hard copy, so.
Ouch. So on the administrator's report, oh, look, we got an application. There's the one.
Yeah, it happens.
From someone that I didn't realize was still developing here. Now, apparently I need to go drive out to the south end of the Murata Surf Trail because the county has actually hooked up the restroom. I didn't know it had arrived.
They haven't put the restroom on yet, but they did the plumbing. Entrenched, and then they're going to.
So you listed under hookups before the building is actually there?
Well, it's with their pipe that's hooked up. That's where we go, like.
It had backhoes all over the place.
So when is the building going to arrive?
I'm sure they're.
Building?
Yes, the building is going to arrive on a truck, and it's going to be picked up off the truck, dropped onto...
It's a new cost savings. We just have plumbing, but, building. It's a little less
It's an
private.
open air thing,
It's a new thing. It's a new way.
All right, engineer's report. Chuck, would you like
Nothing
to?
further, just what Kennedy Jenks has in there.
Okay, which is no new developments, and our district engineers participating in the Technical Advisory Committee for Plan Princeton with the county.
How far along are we on replacing the 1920s sewer mains? What percentage?
1/5 of the way through, 20%. Well, the plan is to do 20% a year, so, and we may be accelerating that just because we're getting such good bids. So John and I talked about not doing, I forget what the number was, 2,000 feet this year, but doing 3. So,
Well, if we can get much better deals on it now than a year or two from now, I think it makes sense to
Right.
accelerate it as much as practical.
yeah. So we're looking at that right now, actually.
Okay, I don't think there are any other comments, and we are adjourned.
Under an hour.